What's going on, everybody? Grim Repair. Today I'm going to show you how to change out the valve covers. We've got an oil leak down at the back there, and it burns off when it hits the exhaust, and you can kind of smell it sometimes when you turn the air on. It gets sucked in through this vent here. Supplies you're going to need are valve covers, intake manifold gaskets, variable valve timing solenoid gaskets. These valve covers here, they even came with new bolts. You can buy just the valve cover gaskets, but these spark plug tube seals are part of the valve cover. If you're going to do all this work, you probably want to change these out too. If oil gets down in your spark plugs, you're going to have a misfire. So we're going to just switch them all out. Do it right. If you're doing your spark plugs, you're going to need spark plugs and coil boots. There'll be links down below in the description for all the parts and tools used in the video. We're working on a 2006 Nissan Pathfinder with a 4-liter. First thing we're going to do is remove these two bolts up here on this cover. They're 10 millimeters. And then this is just going to pop off. Get these out here, they're going to pop. There we go. After that, we have two more right here holding this ductwork on. And we're going to loosen these hose clamps here and here. Oh, looks like my boot is ripped. It's not good. We've also got a hose clamp on this tube here. Just gonna take a pair of pliers, slide it off. Having a hard time getting it off on this end, so I'm gonna do it over here, see if it's any easier, since it's gonna have to come off anyway. There we go, slid right off that way. Now's a good time to clean out your throttle body with some throttle body cleaner. I'll go ahead and put these screws back here so I don't lose them. Next we're going to unplug throttle body here. And then these two hoses, we're going to remove those. A little bit of coolant is going to leak out of them. So we're going to put a rag down here to keep it off the pulleys. Looks like a lot of coolant is coming out of there. Jeez. Go ahead and clamp these off, since there's so much coolant in there. Got a line going here. This is a vacuum line. No coolant in this one. There we go. That's out of the way. We're going to go ahead and leave these attached. We might have to remove this to get to that bolt down there, but you can still leave it attached. We do have to unplug this electrical connector. And then there's a bunch of 10 millimeters along the intake manifold up here. We got to remove those. One. One down in here. Can't really see them all, so I have to feel for it. We're going to get this out of the way. That's bigger than a 10 millimeter though. It's a 12 millimeter. set that aside. There's one right back here. Might need a shorter extension to get to that one. Alright, let's get these wires out of the way. Squeeze these tabs. There's one over here too. Plug back here. I'm gonna unplug it by squeezing the tab that's on top of it. Right there. Now let's see if we have room to get that last bolt back there. There we go. Oh. Pinching me in between the firewall and the manifold there. Don't forget about that plug when we put it back together. It's kind of hidden. All right, that should be it for those top manifold bolts. Right over here on this bracket that bolts to it, there's one there in the front. There's another one down here. Not sure if you can see it, but it's right down here. And they're 12 millimeters. There you go. And the other one's down here. There we go. We got a vacuum hose over here. Gonna squeeze that hose clamp right there and pull it off. These vacuum lines are pretty hard. They might break on you when you try to remove them. So be careful with them. Oh, that line is split right open. There we go. That's why there was tape on it. This booster hose is hooked up to the back of the manifold still, but I think we got enough wiggle room for that. I think I'm gonna pull this bracket off that holds this wire loom because it's just gonna kind of get hung up on stuff. Come on, there's one. The other one's right here. Get this bracket out of the way. Put this back on there just to keep things from flopping around. Make sure there's nothing hanging up. All right, we're gonna disconnect this booster line. And it'll just come out with the manifold. All right, and it's out. Here's where that blue gasket I got goes. Right here. This one looks pretty shot, so good thing we got that. Now we're gonna get some paper towels, put them in those holes so nothing falls in there. You don't want to drop a bolt in there and ruin your whole day. Now the hard part's out of the way. These spark plugs over here are easy to get to. It's these ones that you got to remove the manifold for. If that's what you're here for, I'm going to show you how to do that next. They got to come out anyway to change the valve cover. So we're going to unplug these coils. You might be able to do it by hand. If not, they make pliers just for connectors. Just gonna squeeze this tab up top here and it'll slide off. I'm gonna do the same thing on all 6 of them. And they'll be linked down below if you want to pick these up. Next, we're gonna remove the 10mm bolts holding them in. These just slide out. This is the coil boot here. It just pulls off, and then there's a spring in there that you're gonna replace. Every time you do spark plugs, you should replace the coil boots. And now you're gonna get an extension with a 5/8 spark plug socket. There's a little piece of rubber in there that holds the spark plug. You're gonna go down and remove it. Since I'm not doing the spark plugs, I'll show you how to gap them and all that, but I'm leaving them in there because I'm here for valve covers. I did the spark plugs not too long ago. Should have done the valve covers then. Pull all these out. All right, we're gonna be really careful with this hose here. Twist it a little bit before we pull it off because it's hard as a rock. We got a plug here we're gonna disconnect. There we go. Get that out of the way. And I'll slide this up. Take a small flathead screwdriver, slide it down here, and this should pop off. There we go. We're just sliding it under a plastic tab and pulling it away. That'll give us a little more room. The same thing here with this one. Just came in from the back and pushed on this thing here and it slid that way. We can get it out of the way. Next we got a plug on this thing here. That's what this is going to. We can just leave that. We're gonna remove these 3 10mm on this solenoid. I believe these bolts are all the same length, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. Here's that gasket we bought underneath of there. Keep track of how it's situated. Try to cover up these holes. Now we're ready to remove the bolts that hold the valve cover down. This is a wobble socket so that this can come in at a little bit of an angle. Got one down here and one down here. This is going to be the one that you're going to need the wobble for. Looks like we're going to have to get this fuel injector harness out of the way. Squeeze the tabs on the bottom. Pull it up. Now we're going to squeeze the tabs that hold the wire looms. Pop them out. There we go. Move it out of the way. Good thing we got extra bolts with our new valve cover. Be very careful of these plastic heater lines. They like to break when you're working near them. Grab all the bolts. Oop. All right, should be all the bolts. And now it should just lift off. You might have to, might be kind of stuck. Maybe use one of these trim tools under here. There you go. Try not to knock any crap down in there. This bracket is kind of in the way here. See if we can fish it out. If not, just push on this bracket, move it out of the way. And it's out. Right down there in the corners where it was leaking. Now we're gonna get a paper towel. Let's get this out of here so it doesn't fall in there. And wipe the oil off. Don't knock anything in there. I'm just gonna wipe it off where the sludge is real built up down here. Wipe it away from the engine. Because I don't want anything getting in there. Keep it real clean. Got some dirt here. I'm gonna get it off. Kind of flush these off as well. All right. Now we're ready to put the valve cover back on. Gonna pop this hose off of here. The new valve cover comes with a new PVC valve, or a PCV valve, so that's nice. There we go. I think I'll pop it on after I get the valve cover mounted, just to give me a little bit more clearance. I'm gonna put a little bit of assembly lube on these spark plug seals. Get everything to slide together easier. Just a little bit. It's just assembly lube. Make sure the gasket is seated into the groove in the valve cover. It's kind of coming loose in some places. All right, now it goes up like that. PCV valve toward the back, breather up toward the front. Make sure these are the same as your old ones before you go through all this trouble. All right, we're gonna slide it in the way we took it out, right under that bracket back there. All right, we're gonna look at the spark plug tubes, make sure it's lined up. Push it straight down. There we go. Putting that lube on helped. And it's a pretty thick gasket, so there will be a little bit of a gap between the head and the valve cover. We're gonna go get our bolts, get them all started. All right, we've got a magnetic tool to help us get them in if we need it. Telescopes, drop it down into the holes. This one here is the tricky one. Just coming in through this bracket and holding it down once it's in. Kind of get it started by hand. Make sure it's not getting cross-threaded. And when we tighten these, we want to start in the center. We're gonna go there, there, here. That way it sits down flat. We're just gonna go in a circle, work our way out. All right, now we can do the same thing and tighten them down to the torque spec. I'll put that on the screen, just do it in that same order. All right, so we're gonna tighten them in 2 steps, starting in the center, working our way out. We're gonna go, the first step is gonna be 35 inch-pounds, which is not very tight. Don't confuse it with foot-pounds. We're working in inch-pounds. This is going to be pretty time consuming, so we're probably just going to skip over it in the video, but we're going to go in the same order. And then after they're all tightened down to 35 inch-pounds, we're going to go 95 inch-pounds, or in between 69 and 95 inch-pounds. So my wrench goes to 80, so I'm going to go to 80 inch-pounds and tighten them in the same sequence all over again. All right, so I've got that torque down. I'm going to go get the variable valve timing solenoid, put the new gasket on it. And we're going to torque those bolts down, again starting from the middle one, to 87 to 112 inch-pounds. So we got our new gasket right here. Slide these out, there's 2 of them. I'm gonna slide that one off, and it's gonna go on just like that. But we're gonna wipe the oil off of this solenoid. We're gonna put the gasket on it. Drop the bolts through to keep everything lined up. Wipe any oil off that's down here. And we're gonna slide it into place. And we're gonna tighten the middle one first. 87 to 112 inch-pounds. Now I'm going to slide all the coils back in. And if you haven't done your spark plugs recently, now is a good time to do it. The intake manifold's off and out of the way. I have done mine not too long ago. All right, we got them slid in. We're gonna put the bolts back. Snug them down, nothing crazy. Now we're gonna plug them all back in. Plug this big connector back in right here. Plug that back in. We're gonna put our PCV hose back on, back there. And it goes like this. Slide the hose clamp into a place where you can get to it. Squeeze it open. Slide it on. And we can take our fuel injector harness, pop these retainers back into place. Plug them back in. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing on the other valve cover. It's pretty much the same. Move the wiring out of the way, remove the coils. You might have to pop this purge valve or evap line out of the way. And then same torque specs and everything. And then we're going to come back after that, and I'll show you how to put the intake manifold back on. So there is some stuff over here that's a little bit different. This oxygen sensor plug, it goes down there on that little bracket, and you have to, it's like this, and you have to pull this plastic tab up, and that releases the sensor side of the harness, and then this pulls out. And then there's a fuel line going over this valve cover. All right, we've got both valve covers back on, and most everything's plugged in. The vacuum line that goes from this one to this one had broke, so I ordered a set. It comes with the one that goes from there to there, that one back there, and I think maybe this one here. I'll put a link down below in case you broke one of those hoses. I would order them before you tackle this job because they're probably due to be replaced anyway. Gonna vacuum up any dirt and wipe this up, pull all those out, and then we'll be ready to put the intake manifold on after we get the new gaskets put onto that. I'm going to show you how to do that. This is pretty straightforward. You're just going to flip it over, take your new gaskets here, grab them, pull them out, wipe it down, a little bit of oil in there. Pop the new one in place. Push it down in there. And we're going to just do the same thing for these other two here. This one that comes with this goes in here behind the throttle body. We're going to leave that one out because we didn't remove it. And if it ever does go bad, it's not a big deal to replace it. This, you're going to have to remove the manifold to get to it, so you might as well do it while you're here. This will come off easy. I'm gonna take this hose off just so it's not in the way trying to put this back together, because I kind of have enough going on. Yeah, it came off pretty easy. So we're gonna do it without putting that. I won't put that in afterwards. All right, you have to put it on over these studs that are sticking out. Lift up that bracket and the loom back there. That over the top here, get it out of the way. Ouch. There we go. Hung up over here on this bracket. Nope. Okay. Get that out of the way. And it is a kind of a thick gasket, so there will be a little bit of a gap between the plastic and the metal. Make sure nothing's holding it up anywhere. Okay, now we can put those bolts and nuts back on. Start with the nuts. Let me get this out of the way so we can see what we're doing. Don't tighten them all the way till you got them all started. And I could probably get that line that goes from here to the other valve cover in afterwards. Like I said, it's gotta come in the mail, so I'm gonna have to wait. But I at least want to get it mostly back together. You got one down there, one down here. Got them on the magnet there. There we go. Don't go crazy. Alright, I'm going to check them by hand now. Don't want to over tighten them, it's on plastic. We're gonna plug this back in. Actually, set that back where it goes. Plug that back in. And now we've got these two 12mm that go in this bracket over here on the side. One down here. And one up here. And it's a 12mm. Vacuum line here. Looks like it's gonna come under this wiring harness. Like I said, I ordered a kit. It's gonna come with a new one. Slide this wiring harness back onto this bracket here. That one's plugged back in. Man, come on. There we go. That's on. Slide this back on. Move your clip back over here. Same thing with this purge line, evap line. Got a couple coolant lines here. Slide those back on. There we go. Got another one right here in the front. Plug the throttle body back in. Tighten this 12mm up right here. Now we're gonna put that bracket in the back there with this two 10mm bolts and plug in all our connectors back there that we didn't plug in. I'm gonna slide this back in there just in case I need to start it or something. I can at least move it. These lines are so stiff though. Alright, that one's in. And this one. That one's in. Pick this bracket up, put it back on top of the intake manifold. Jeez. Wait. There we go. All right. There's one. There's another one. Got this electrical connector. Plugs in right here. Right back here on this bracket. There we go. Okay. Get this bolt started in there. There we go. Tighten those bolts up. There's one and a two. Now we can slide these looms back through these mounts. And don't forget to hook up the brake booster hose. I still got to put that back in. Everything seems to be plugged in. Got my ground wires hooked up back up here. My solenoids are plugged in. Slide this air duct back in. And I still need to replace this. I think I can get it at the hardware store. And I believe the kit actually comes with this vacuum line, this vacuum line, and then that back one right there. So I think I'm gonna stop for now until I get that boot. But this is gonna go back in. Hook up your line, put your bolts in here, put your other top cover on over here. And I believe that's it for changing out the valve covers. And now we're gonna start it up and check for leaks. Probably had a hard time starting because I cleaned out the throttle body and the mass airflow sensor. It's gonna have to relearn a little bit about its airflow. Probably will disconnect the battery so that it can reset the computer. But for right now, I'm gonna go check for leaks. Looking pretty good. That's it. High five. You did it. Thanks for watching.